Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Kamla announced on Monday that 30 joint army police posts will be established across Trinidad and Tobago over the next 4 months. That was something that I was recommending when Kamla first entered office last year. But of course, I'm just a normal citizen, a working class citizen, and I don't have a large following, so no one would have taken me on any other ticket. But that is a reality. If people go back to my older videos from last year and probably even earlier this year, I was saying that is what they need to do: set up mobile posts, even right near our borders, our porous borders, in areas where you know very well illegal immigrants enter our country on a regular basis, maybe even a daily basis. You should have police posts set up there as well. What I've said from the very beginning, though, is that while this is a good idea, you need to ensure that police officers, while on duty there, are wearing body cameras. That the mobile posts also have security cameras and so forth on it. But the police officers, while they're on patrol, the regiment officers, while on patrol, are wearing body cameras. Why? Because we all know the corrupt police service that we have. And we all know the regiment officers love to play police as well and abuse their authority, not just the police officers. And if you don't want to be tormenting the lives of these citizens in these crime hotspots, you see, the PNM radicals and them don't want to admit that places like Laventil and Sealots and Beetham and all these kind of areas, that they are hotspots. People afraid to go in those kind of areas for a reason, people, right? But you remember, everything is about just tribalism with the PNM fanatics. So at the end of the day, we want the citizens to feel safe in their communities. We want crime to be under control, but we also want to protect the citizens from these rogue officers as well. So you need to mandate, Kamla, which you still haven't done up to now, mandates that police officers wear body cameras. Moving on with the news report, the initiative aims to increase visible law enforcement in local communities and fulfill long-standing public requests for greater physical protection. That is what you should have been doing from the very beginning, instead of trampling upon our constitution by imposing a state of emergency to fight crime. These are the kind of initiatives, even though Gary Griffith doesn't agree, I'm sorry to tell you, Gary Griffith, I support it. But of course, Gary Griffith will be like, who are you to support anything? But anyhow, this is my channel, so I can say what I want. Locations for 24 of the planned bases have already been designated, including key highway junctions and rural hubs like Grand Bazaar, Interchange, and Carlson Field, with 6 additional sites scheduled to be finalized shortly. We need to have them in the real hot spots. That's what you all need to do. And as I said before, ensure the officers and the regiment officers are wearing body cameras at all times. However, the plan has drawn sharp criticism from former Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith, who described the measure as an outdated and cosmetic approach to security. Honestly speaking, you give a very wonderful advice most of the times, and you're extremely intelligent, Gary Griffith, and a lot of your ideas will be effective as well if the government chooses to implement them. But I think you can't just give up everything that is old school either, Gary. I think this is an important policy that most likely will be implemented. Griffith argued that static posts tied down essential officers in fixed locations rather than utilizing dynamic intelligence-led mobile patrols and modern emergency response systems. Hey, but you see what, Gary Griffith? What you're kind of ignoring is the fact that when you put mobile posts into these areas, it's going to deter criminal activity. It's going to deter and discourage criminal gang members from holding these entire areas hostage, Gary. Because when you just have patrols, when you're just depending on intelligence, and the intelligence tells you, okay, there are certain criminals roaming the streets. By the time you leave, somebody busts a mark, and it ends up where these fellas and them gone already. They already flee the scene. You understand, Gary? We need to balance things off a little bit, you know, sir. As I said before, don't get me wrong, you are a very intelligent man, and most of the recommendations you have been giving to the government recently are really wonderful recommendations. But this, you're going off here a bit, Gary. You really are. He warned that assigning personnel to stationary buildings does not actively prevent criminals from operating in surrounding areas. No, but they're not supposed to just remain in the buildings, Gary. They're supposed to be doing patrols throughout the day. Just like, let me just say this quickly here. In general, police officers do not do sufficient patrols, even when you're talking about just driving around communities, especially in the night time. And during the day, after school hours, when it's all around 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, you're supposed to have police officers patrolling the streets like here in Sangre Grande, which will also deter what? Criminal activity, gang recruitment within schools. And we're talking about also fights, right? Which is a crime, right? Violence, school violence. You will also deter that. You will also prevent a lot of fights that usually take in Sangre Grande and throughout areas in Trinidad and Tobago. You can prevent a lot of that from happening, because when it is these young patriots who a lot of times are trying to recruit gang members into their gangs, right? When they notice that police officers are roaming the streets, they are not going to try to organize any sort of school fights that most of the times they plan on WhatsApp groups. Gary Griffith, this is something that you should be recommending as well. Increasing in patrols, foot patrols in various areas throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and also in, as I said before, in Sangre Grande, of course. Despite these criticisms, many citizens have expressed strong support for the initiative, viewing stationary posts as a far better and a less intrusive security solution than relying on a state of emergency. And that's exactly, I actually placed this statement into the report itself, right? And that has been my... And it's not only me, of course. A lot of individuals, including Gary Griffith, has been saying that you cannot, and Ramesh Lawrence Maraz has been stating clearly, you cannot continue to suspend the constitutional rights of citizens to privacy in their homes, or to a fair trial in court, or to be released from prison within a short space of time if there's insufficient evidence to charge them. You cannot continue to suspend the citizens' rights to protest in order to fight crime. Then you are now a dictatorship. Kamla Bisesa, I hope that you are using this as a transition period to get out of the state of emergency. Don't come and say you're going to keep the state of emergency while doing this as well. Stop taking advice from Roger Alexander and these radicals. These people are making the UNC become a PNM radical party, and an extreme version of the PNM as well. Members of the public argued that a permanent military and police presence creates a consistent sense of safety. While I do not trust the police, and that's why I want body cameras to be worn, they can very well be useful when it pertains to reducing gang activity throughout various areas, districts in Trinidad and Tobago. Tobago as well, don't get tied up. So members of the public argue that a permanent military and police presence creates a consistent sense of safety, discourages localized crime, and allows residents to reclaim public spaces without facing the curfews and freedom restrictions typical of SOE measures. Now, Kamla will say, well, we don't have no curfew, yeah, but you are infringing upon citizens' rights to be able to protest. You have people spying on citizens' private conversations, and then want to vex with what people say in their private conversations, as though you saints don't say similar things when you are angry. Whether it's the African community, whether it's the East Indian community, you all say very prejudiced things as well during your private conversations when you are vexed, or even under normal circumstances. But playing saints right now and criticizing Star Sabga. Miss me with that. To strengthen these local operations, the Prime Minister invited business chambers non-profit organizations and village councils to actively support and adopt their regional posts. Expressing gratitude to top defense and police leadership, Persaud has emphasized that multi-agency coordination will continue as joint forces are progressively deployed across both islands over the coming months. Well, yeah, we know you love your rough men, you know. I really believe that there's need for police reform. But until then, we need to use them in whichever way we can. But that is why I'm saying mandate the body cameras, because we can't trust them either. They will abuse their authority if they are not held accountable. My response, this should have been done from the very beginning instead of trampling upon citizens' constitutional rights. It may be considered to be an outdated crime-fighting strategy or method, but if body cameras are mandated to prevent police abuse of power, this can be far more effective and democratic, which is what I care about most of all. I want our democracy to be preserved, and this police state is not a democracy right now, than a state of emergency. This I will support 100% than a continued state of emergency.
Weather report for Trinidad and Tobago on Wednesday, August 5, 2026. The weather for Wednesday, August 5, 2026 in Trinidad and Tobago will be predominantly sunny, hazy and breezy with a maximum temperature reaching 33 degrees Celsius and a minimum low of 24 degrees Celsius. A moderate concentration of Saharan dust is present in the atmosphere, so individuals sensitive to air quality changes should take necessary precautions. High humidity levels fluctuating between 70% and 90% mean daytime conditions will feel significantly hotter, with a feels to like heat index peaking around 34 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. Expect steady easterly to southeasterly winds blowing at 5 to 35 km per hour, which will bring breezy conditions at times. While the day is mostly fair, there is a 30% low chance of an isolated heavy shower or afternoon thunderstorm, primarily favoring western or hilly areas of Trinidad. Street or flash flooding can occur during brief heavy downpours. The maximum UV index will reach a very high level of 10, so sun protection is highly recommended between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Seas will remain slight to moderate, with wave heights up to 1.5 meters in open waters and below 1.0 meter in sheltered areas.
Regional news now. Rapidly growing interest in Jamaica's agricultural sector is pushing the iconic Denby Showground in Clarendon to its physical limits. These are good news still. Expand if you have to. It shows that Jamaicans want to expand the agricultural sector and therefore become more self-sufficient when it pertains to food production. All islands need to be doing that here in the Caribbean. Speaking as the curtain came down on the 72nd Denby Agricultural, Industrial and Food Show on Sunday, Jamaica Agricultural Society Chief Executive Officer Darren Grant assessed that the current venue is becoming too small to host a rising number of exhibitors. Well, get the funding and expand it, that's all. See if the government will assist too. He noted that the surge in participating farmers, agribusinesses, and patrons reflects a national resurgence in farming, which has created an urgent need for space to accommodate the sector's ongoing expansion. The capacity strain highlights both the success of the annual showcase and the broader modernization efforts taking place across the country's agricultural industry. As stakeholders, young entrepreneurs, and commercial vendors continue to drive demand for booth spaces and display areas, organizers face the challenge of scaling up infrastructure to match the enthusiasm. Moving forward, the JAS plans to evaluate site management options and spatial enhancements to ensure the historic venue can properly support future attendance and keep pace with the island's growing food production movement. International news now. Political chaos in Israel. Ministers demand scrapping Trump's Gaza withdrawal plan. I say amen, 100%. I support it. Political drama erupts in Israel right before the scheduled phase 2 withdrawal from Gaza. following the release of President Trump's Peace Council roadmap. That man, I'm telling you, blinded by the spirit of the Antichrist, Trump. And as much as I consider Netanyahu to be the modern-day Jehu, he falters many times. Stop submitting to Trump, no man. Anyhow, cabinet ministers Bezalel, Smotrich, and Oret Strzok sent an urgent letter to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu demanding a new cabinet vote to block the IDF's withdrawal. As Amr Safati said, I think it's just yesterday, these radical jihadists like Hamas, you think they will really put down their arms? No, there's just a strategy they're playing. They will never give up their desire to erase all Israelis off the face of the earth, people. They will never, just like how the IRGC and the Ayatollahs are lying when they're saying they're going to make deals with America. These people are lying about being willing to disarm. They're not going to do so. They're not going to do so. They're going to pretend as if they're cooperating with the international bodies, and then they're going to continue to conspire to attack and to kill and destroy Israelis in Israel. Not to mention, as I stated recently, and Amr Safati has said this over and over again, about 90% of Palestinians support Hamas and other terrorist groups. You cannot allow them to govern themselves because they will continue to do the same thing. Build new tunnels, repair the tunnels that have been destroyed and so forth. Build new tunnels so that they could attack and erase Israel. It's the same thing, people. It's the same ideology, just like in Iran. They believe Israel is little Satan and America is big Satan. They're never going to give up their goal to erase both nations, because they believe by doing so, they're going to usher in the coming of their Messiah. You're not going to change their minds, not to mention they have been indoctrinated since young. The teachers and the parents instill to the minds of the youths that they must become martyrs when they grow older, and that they will be blessed in the afterlife for being martyrs. You ain't going to change that with any deal. Trump, I'm telling you, continues to be led and influenced by the spirit of the Antichrist. Hezbollah signals willingness for talks with Syria. Syria is led by a terrorist group as well. A terrorist, Al-Julani, a terrorist. So, of course, they wouldn't mind having talks with another terrorist. Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem signaled to Syrian leadership his willingness to meet, according to Israeli media reports. The remarks came days after the Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara, also known as al-Julani, said in an interview that Damascus is in contact with the Lebanese government. From what I heard from Amr Safati, al-Julani was wanted and it was $1 million bounty on that man. He defeated the former regime in Syria, put on a suit, and now all of a sudden everybody has forgotten that he was a terrorist, a wanted terrorist. I tell you, this world evil. We're living in evil times. Qassem also linked Syria's stability to Lebanon's, saying Hezbollah supports the deployment of the Lebanese army south of the Litani River and will provide the fullest possible assistance as it has in the past. Yeah, right. We're supposed to believe that from terrorists. As I just said before, these terrorist groups will lie in order to survive, in order to remain in existence. Groups need to be totally dismantled. Trump needs to stop playing these games with terrorists.
Psalm 29, 4-6. The power of the Lord's voice. The voice of the Lord is powerful and full of majesty. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars, the Lord shatters the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon leap like a calf and Syrian like a young wild ox.
The Lord's voice is powerful and full of majesty. It breaks the mightiest cedars and makes the mountains leap. Experience his undeniable strength today.
From mighty waters to shaking deserts, the Lord's fiery voice displays power. Reigning as eternal king, he bestows strength and peace.
Silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.